Hello, I hope you're having a gorgeous day. We're going to be working on this magical fairyland forest. All the supplies you need will be linked in the description below. I'm going to be using tissue paper and crepe paper to make mine. Okay, let's dive right in. I'm going to start by attaching some pieces of the craft paper to the ceiling just so I can measure how long they need to be. And then I'm going to lay them out on the floor and cut a whole bunch of pieces at once so that I can just assemble a lot of them really quickly. It's always nice to have a little helper and a little cheerleader along. But this part of the process actually goes pretty quick. I'm going to attach all of them together and wrap some tape around that. It's going to feel like a big squid. You're just wrangling this big thing. And the style of tree that I'm going for right now is kind of more of a twisty, like with lots of twists and knots and texture in it. So I decided to try doing this, and you'll see how I'm going to approach it. But it's a very quick and easy process. Once I finish twisting each individual piece, I attach the whole structure to the ceiling using a packing tape. Anytime it was a weight-bearing situation like this that was foundational, the packing tape was a huge support, and I didn't have any issues with it, with anything falling, and it didn't peel any tape off, or excuse me, it didn't peel any paint off either. So I feel like this worked out really well for that. Now that all the long pieces are done, I'm going to take smaller to medium-sized pieces and I'm going to tape one end, twist the entire piece, and then also tape the other end. And I'm going to weave it into the tree and over the tape that's showing and then back into the bottom. And using a stapler, you can really just sculpt the entire tree. It's super easy. Once again, it's always nice to have a little helper on hand to keep you motivated. We're just going to continue with this process until the tree really starts to take shape. And I had to build the structure and then bring it out of the wall because I'm building it on a corner. If you were building it in a corner, you could just attach them to the ceiling and then just add some structure. There's a larger tree where I do this a little bit later on. I'll show a picture of it here. But yeah, you'll have to change up what you're doing depending on where you're placing your tree, but it's super easy to work with. I love craft paper so much. Here I'm starting to begin the branches, and the large branches, I just did one individual craft paper and just really loosely twisted it, and I felt like that worked really great. And then towards the end, I would just twist it a lot more. Try and wrap it around structures in your house or find natural places where it can kind of twist and turn. But yeah, it's really easy to work with. I actually attached it to my ceiling using push pins. It's not my favorite, but we loved the look of it, so I feel like it was worth it. Time to start the flowers. This is one of my favorite parts, but it is time consuming. Super easy, extremely impactful. One of my absolute favorite parts, but it is going to take you a little bit of time. I chose to do 4 colors so I could do a gradient ombre effect. I feel like it works out best that way. And we're going to start off by taking our crepe or tissue paper. The process is the same for both. And I'm going to cut lots of strips that are anywhere from 2 to 3, maybe even 4 inches long. My advice as you're doing this process is just to sit down with a good movie and just work on it a little bit each day. It took me probably maybe 3 or 4 days of solid work just off and on to get all of the paper flowers done, which you'll see how many there are. Now that we have our strips done, we're going to cut in 2 or 3 inch little sections, and these are what we're going to twist up into our flowers. We're just taking one individual piece of paper and twisting it twice, and then you're going to push your thumbs together and you don't even need to worry about doing any bending or opening. It's just a very quick twist, push, and drop. And here in the video, you're seeing me work with crepe paper, but in the Fairyland forest, I alternate strings of tissue paper with strings of crepe paper. I love how it looks because it gives the eye some variation and some different textures. The crepe paper looks very textured, whereas the tissue paper ends up looking really ruffly, and I just love both. But the tissue paper is way, way cheaper than the crepe paper, so you can decide for yourself which one you like. Either way, it's going to be gorgeous. One of my favorite parts of this process was just to look at all the flowers together once I had amassed a bunch, getting ready to string them. And I love just running my hands through them because they feel so airy and frothy and crispy and frilly. I love the texture of them. And so it was really fun to just sit back and look at all the work you did and see the excitement of what it's going to look like when it's done. I am not going to lie, I had to film this part like 6 times to get the thread to go through the needle seamlessly. But we are on to stringing our flowers, and this is a really fun part because it starts to come together. And I start with the lightest color and then slowly work my way to the darkest color. And there's really nothing to this. You just put the needle through, be very, very careful. You can probably see in the video, I have so many places where I poked myself and I was bleeding. So be very careful. Use a thimble if you would like to, but you're just going to push it through. It doesn't even need to be in the very center of the flower, and you're just going to string them up. And probably one of the most important things is as you're stringing, kind of alternate when you're changing colors. Don't just do a hard stop of one color. See how I kind of alternate here? And then that way there's kind of like a natural little dusting of color in between each one, and that will make it look really natural when it's hung up. Couple more tips is to space the flowers out. They don't need to be all crammed in together. And then also do strings of short with strings of really long. You want a lot of variation of lengths of your flowers. I kept this up way past our party, and we just loved waking up to it every day. It was so magical, and I mixed in some realistic vines with it as well, and I feel like that made a huge impact, and we loved it so much. And I also put it around the house. This was in our kitchen, and I felt like it just kind of led you through the house to this magical fairyland that was just so fun. My husband did this 20-foot tree in our foyer, so you can kind of take this and use it other places as well. But we did a really witchy aesthetic in our front room and kind of wanted to take people on this journey to the magical forest. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you give this project a try. And as always, I hope that you are happy and healthy. Take care.